Very good evening to you. I'm Lisa Broom with the CBC Evening News. Prime Minister Fendel Stewart has received a progress report on the reparations efforts. Mr. Stewart is the chairman of the Prime Ministerial Subcommittee on Reparations for Native Genocide and Slavery. The submission of the report follows a recent meeting with chairman of the CARICOM Reparations Commission, Professor Sir Hilary Beckles, and CARICOM Secretary General Ambassador Erwin LaRocque, along with several government ministers and officials. Now, Ambassador LaRocque says some progress has been witnessed since the last Prime Ministerial Subcommittee meeting and noted that several of the national committees established around the region were mostly active and eager to move forward. Meanwhile, Professor Sir Hilary Beckles, who is also the Vice-Chancellor of the University of the West Indies, indicated that the example set by the CARICOM heads of government in creating the commission had created a global tsunami, resulting in the creation of 17 other reparations commissions worldwide. The CARICOM Reparations Commission was launched in 2013 with the mandate of establishing the moral, ethical and legal case for the payment of reparations by the governments of all the former colonial powers and the relevant institutions of those countries to the nations and people of the Caribbean community for the crimes against humanity of native genocide, the transatlantic slave trade, and a racialized system of chattel slavery. After hard preparation and personal sacrifice, thousands of primary school students have taken that one important step closer to secondary school life, the Barbados Secondary Schools Entrance Examination. This year, 3,330 students were registered to write the exam, often referred to as the 11+. We hear more in this report from Kishmar Singis.
22 secondary schools were transformed into examination centers for the eager and nervous 11+ students. Over at Parkinson Memorial, the day started off with prayer for the dozens of students. Among them, students from Wilkie Cumberbatch and Grantley Prescott Primary, and a lone student from the Irvin Wilson School. Principal of Parkinson, Ian Holder, reminded students there was nothing to fear about the 11+ examination.
You would have been prepared for today. Whatever you get in your exam will be work that you would have been practicing, that you will be familiar with, and there's nothing that is going to be fearful and jump at you as you prepare for your activities this morning.
Teachers and principals from the different schools were on hand to lend support. Principal of Grantley Prescott, Marlene Abrams, says her students were adequately prepared for the exam, and she has singled out the work of its teachers as a key factor.
From, I would say, nursery to class 4. In particular, I want to thank our two current class 4 teachers, Mrs. Beverly Holder and Miss Andrea Biswam, and indeed all the other members of staff who would have contributed to the preparation of these students.
Similar sentiments were echoed by senior teacher at Wilkie Cumberbatch Primary, Jacinta Alexander.
Besides working on the curriculum, we have done past papers prepared by the Ministry of Education. We've also done extra lessons. During the summer vacation last evening in class 3, we have been working with the students. We've also worked with the students during the Easter vacation. And in order to preparation for this big day as well, so that they can get a feel and an atmosphere of the whole place, we have even had the mock finals here at the Parkinson Secondary School.
Parents to ensure their children were ready and were outside of the examination centers to lend their support.
Honestly, the preparation was really done by my daughter, Chrisanne. She motivates herself, so I did not even have to get behind her to tell her about Chrisanne. No tablet, no TV. She has her goals put aside.
My daughter did everything as normal. She have no nerves. She's in class 4W. Her teacher is Miss Alexander. She really do a good job with them, pushing them in every area.
Now, in comparison to years gone by, only a few parents remained outside of the schools until the examination was over. Kishmar Singis, CBC News.
Thanks, Kishmar. And when it was all over, there were mixed reactions from the students. However, what everyone can agree on is the hard work is over and now it's time to relax. Sharika Griffith tells us more.
There were smiles all around at the Springer Memorial Secondary School as the final bell rang, signaling the end of another common entrance examination. Students emerged about 1:15 and were greeted with warm hugs and kisses by parents who had been anxiously waiting outside the school gate. But when asked about the difficulty of the papers, their responses varied.
Well, the math was hard, but the grammar was easy and the composition was easy, so yeah, it was good. I think the mathematics was kind of hard. Yeah, and the grammar, it was easy.
Okay, so how do you feel now that the exam is over?
Relief. Well, the math paper was kind of easy because I had practice already, but the grammar was kind of challenging in the free response. Some of the math was easy and some of it was hard. And the composition topics were good. It was quite challenging, but I think I was able to pull through a solid pass.
Unlike past years when parents camped outside the school all morning, many parents went about their usual business while their little ones sat the exam.
I did stay. I stayed from about 8:30 to 11 and then leave and came out at 1.
I dropped her off and I went to work.
So you were
no sense me being here to sit and do anything. I was confident she would do her best, so I left the rest up to God.
And as is the norm, students were treated to lunch at various restaurants across the island. A popular choice is always Bubba's Restaurant, which, according to operations manager Adrian Jones, was fully booked for the afternoon.
Basically, as you can take a look around, we are completely booked out, and you can just basically say we are overbooked. There are a lot of people on the outside trying to get in, but Bubba's can only hold so much.
The exam results should be released by early June. Sharika Griffith, CBC News.
Thanks very much, Sharika. In other news now, the ruling Democratic Labour Party needs to reach out to past supporters who have lost confidence in the party. This is the advice of St. James South MP as the DLP continues its series of facts meetings across the island. Minister of Industry, Commerce and Business, Donville Innes, says the party has to answer for any shortcomings.
We knew and we appreciated that these are not easy days or ordinary days. These are times when even friends and family and party supporters could not have gotten what we promised perhaps they have gotten because they recognize the circumstances of the change so dramatically. We have to be truthful to our friends and family and supporters. We have to say to you, look, we appreciate what you have been complaining about and such like. But these have not been easy times and sure why it's not been the case.
He suggests it's especially important as elections approach.
This upcoming election is going to be a very, very serious one. It's going to be serious because a lot of our party supporters, or some of our party supporters, have obviously felt that they haven't gotten what they ought to have gotten. Some of them may feel a little disconnected. The wider population there may feel that we have governed the country at a time when there has been a lot of challenges, economically, socially, and otherwise. And therefore, there are those on the other side who will feel that it's time that you change the government.
Well, coming up, the Finance Minister talks changes to the Central Bank Act. We'll have that story and more after this break.
MCTV and HBO are hosting a movie night featuring the Angry Birds movie. We're inviting our subscribers to the movie package to join us on Sunday, May 7th, 4 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. at the Olympus Theaters. Come, watch the movie, take photos with the Angry Bird character, loads of selfies, and just have fun. Why are the birds so angry? Come see Red, Chuck, and Bomb foil Leonard's plans. Collect your movie pass from the MCTV office Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. There will be a maximum of 3 passes per valid account number, 2 for children ages 5 through 11, and 1 for an adult 16 years and over. Conditions apply. It's the MCTV HBO Movie Night, Sunday, May 7th, Olympus Theaters. See you at the movies.
MCTV and HBO Movie Night, with the compliments of Star Chick, Kids World Rentals, Pix Photo Booth, Pine Hill, Sunrise Chick, and Julie Party Rentals.
Tune into CBC TV 8 every Wednesday during the CBC Evening News for the Business Report, with the compliments of the Barbados Public Workers Cooperative Credit Union Limited, where you belong.
Get ready for some Caribbean fun with Liat, the Caribbean airline, as we take a peek into summer and beyond. Book yourself a Caribbean getaway now and get 25% off all Liat fares for travel between July 1st and November 15th. But you must book on or before May 7th. Use promo code BEEK for this sweet summer deal of 25% off. Call our reservations department, your local travel agent, or visit liat.com to book. But hurry, limited seats available. Terms and conditions apply.
Government is taking significant steps to ensure that the Central Bank of Barbados continues to operate as efficiently as possible. Word of this from Finance Minister Chris Sinclair, who says in a matter of weeks, government will have ready a new Central Bank Act, which is expected to see sweeping changes to the current structure of that financial institution. The announcement came during the bank's 45th anniversary celebration at the St. Michael's Cathedral. Now, while lauding the bank for its contribution to the stability of the island's economy, he says the time has come for much needed improvements.
These changes are designed not to discombobulate the excellence that has taken place in the last 45 years, but to guarantee that we can get more of that in the next 45. Changes to its governance, to its financial supervisory role, will become part of the new transformed central bank as we move into the future and equip the organization with the tools necessary to be able to take on many of the modern things that have emerged both in terms of the financial sector, the economy, and of course the society.
Also speaking at the bank's anniversary service was Reverend Dr. Jeffrey D. Gibson, who spoke about the economic challenges facing the country. While acknowledging the need for a swift response to the challenges, he advised that any steps taken should first address issues confronting the poor and vulnerable in society.
Yes, it is crucial to practice love within the community of the strong and the faithful. But it is equally important to practice love among people who are vulnerable. It may be considered that a fundamental moral measure of an economy is how the poor and the vulnerable have been protected.
And scores of Barbadians today got a rare glimpse into the operations of the Central Bank of Barbados as a result of its open day. The 6-hour event formed part of the 45th anniversary celebrations, as we just told you about. Now, the bank's public affairs officer, Noveline Brewster, was pleased with the response to the event. She says it was geared at helping the public to understand the bank's work and give them an opportunity to tour the 10-story facility.
We have all of our departments exhibiting their work in the Grand Salle and here in the foyer of the Central Bank proper. We have those departments that interface with the public, like banking and investments. We have the currency department. We have the public affairs department, which keeps the bank in touch with the community through its many programs, educational and otherwise. So that's basically just to demystify the bank, to have people questions answered.
Some school children and adults shared what they learned from the exercise.
When I was standing there, they were talking about the money in different countries, and I learned that in England you have all sorts of money.
I just learned about the money laundering area. That is by the supervisory section of the bank. They apparently supervise all the areas, all the other banks, so that the money is clean and underhanded.
Asthmatics in Barbados appear to be getting better at managing their condition, at least if the number of visits to the Queen Elizabeth Hospital's Asthma Bay is any indication. President of the Asthma Association of Barbados, Rosita Pollard, says in recent times the number of people who've been forced to use the equipment at the QEH to relieve their symptoms when the condition flares up has dropped by 2,000.
I think people are beginning now to wake up and realize that this is a condition that needs to be taken seriously. Some people at least. And I think the visits to the Asthma Bay have actually gone down. They used to be like 10,000 per year, and they're now like 8,000 per year. So that's an improvement. Well, we're hoping that our education and our sensitization and the pushing of the spacers and the peak flow meters have contributed to that.
Ms. Pollard was speaking to CBC as the association celebrates World Asthma Day at its Terrell-Cott offices with an open day. One young lady also gave a demonstration on a peak flow meter, which is used to tell asthmatics how well their lungs are functioning. Ms. Pollard says although fewer people are using the A&D, there's still room for improvement.
By getting more information about asthma, learning about the condition, learning how to treat it, how to control it, how to use these two pieces of equipment effectively, how to take their medications correctly, and things like that.
If the heads of the local autism charity Spectrum Possibilities have their way, Barbados will soon have a high-tech treatment facility for people with the condition. To do this, they've set out initially to raise about $50,000 that will help to provide a biomedical and hyperbaric clinic. Deborah Thompson-Smith, one of the directors of the charity, says the international understanding of autism is that there are underlying medical conditions that contribute to the illness.
Not only do we want people to look at that, but to know that there are options for treatment for individual kids and adolescents and adults. And the approach to that is called biomedical treatment. It's a specialized individual attention to each child and their metabolic and immune issues. We facilitated the registration of Dr. Julie Buckley. She treats children with autism from all over the world, and we are planning to have a visiting clinic where she can come every year or multiple times a year and treat children, but also engage with pediatricians about things that can be done to help children to thrive who have autism.
One of the annual fundraising activities was an autism awareness ride held under the theme Shifting Gears for Autism. 42 riders, the youngest 7 and the oldest in his 70s, took to the streets around Rawlins in the effort. Now, one of the members of Spectrum Possibilities, Natalie McCleary, explains the rationale behind the theme.
It's like shifting gears mentally in people's minds about whose role it is to help with autism, also on the whole thing of thinking about autism, because many people associate autism mainly with boys, but they don't realize that also girls are also affected, and it doesn't only affect children but also adolescents and older people. So we're shifting gears and again having something that has action behind it. Also to prominently say what Debbie's also started on, saying that dads and men have a role as well in helping with dealing with issues like this. So we're thought about something that would incorporate what guys are also good at.
As many of the Caribbean countries struggle with increasing rates of crime, Jamaican entertainers who were in Barbados for the Digicel Vintage Reggae show are calling on their younger counterparts to clean up their message. Crime rates across the Caribbean have been rising and governments have been searching for solutions. What they may not have realized is that they have allies in the fight, in the form of several vintage reggae singers, many of whom are worried about the murders and other crimes, especially violent ones, being committed. Little John, for instance, he's putting out new music that will have an anti-crime message.
It's because of the thing what was going on in the world. I used to have my phone and I see what if a young girl pop up on it that people are destroy young girls and stuff like that. So I tell them to treat the woman them. Tell them something I like how them treat the woman them.
Another is the sweet singing Pinchers, known for his love songs and some for those whom he terms the rude boys. He's set to release a song calling for peace.
The crime rate is so terrible right now, and it's getting more and more every day. So I think we as artists are the voice of the people. Need to, step forward and try to do more things like this to shine more light into that darkness.
Easy, I want to hear the song. So easy with the guitar, that's easy. Crime must be stopped. Cause every people dying caught into that bloody trap. Crime must be stopped. Don't let them burn another shot of reap another bring crime. But also
The First Lady of reggae music in Jamaica, Marcia Griffiths, wholeheartedly agrees. And while she thinks young male artists have a responsibility to put out music with more positive lyrics, Ms. Griffiths also believes female entertainers have a special role to play.
The Bible says the woman shall surpass the man in this time, and this is what I see happening today, because the men are taking everything for granted while the women are really carrying the baton and doing the work. You know, so it's the mothers and the teachers like us and the wives. We are the ones who have to take the responsibility and continue the work.
Overall, despite the hour-long break in the show due to technical difficulties, the artists managed to get a good response from the large crowd. Eric Donaldson and Pluto Shervington rocked Kensington Oval early with their longtime favorites, while Glenn Washington sweetly sang the show to its climax just before 4 a.m. Well, still to come, news from around the region.
What's your rhythm?
94.7 FM, the rhythm of life.
The message I'm doing is I am responsible for my every thought, my every word, my every action, and my every feeling. I'm doing it because if my friend tells me to do something bad, I thought about doing it. I was responsible for saying yes. I was responsible for thinking it. So when I get in trouble, I can't go to my friend and say, you got me in trouble, you made me do this, because I chose to do it. And I'm thinking that way. I made myself think that way. I didn't go and say, well, they made me do it, so obviously I'm thinking for them. I thought for myself. I thought for myself. I felt, I had my feelings for myself. I did my actions for myself. I have the power of choice.
We begin in Jamaica, where there's been a decline in both the number of children going missing and the number of those missing who are found dead. State Minister in the Ministry of Youth, Floyd Green, attributes the decline to the effectiveness of the Ananda Alert system, introduced in 2009 to help broadcast information about missing children. 90% of all reported missing children eventually returned home. Mr. Green says there was an 11% decrease in missing children from 2015 to 2016.
Between the period 2009 and 2016, a total of 15,524 children were reported missing. This represented an average of 1,941 children going missing each year. 90% of those children returned home. Last year, from the statistics obtained from our JCF partners, we saw a decline of 11% to 1,725 children being reported missing. 90% of those children also returned home.
Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro says he will convene an assembly to rewrite the country's constitution, the aim of which is to quell mounting protests against him. But the plan was quickly rejected by his opponents as an attempt to avoid elections.
It was a stunning move that the opposition called a coup. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro is calling for a vast transformation in government, meaning the current one and all its branches would be dissolved. And the president made the announcement during May Day celebrations in Caracas. Maduro said the new government would be created by convening a national assembly who would then rewrite the constitution. Maduro says the current constitution gives him the power to do so.
Today, May 1st, I would like to announce that I, in the exercise of my presidential powers and as head of state, as stipulated in Article 347 of the Constitution, I call on the original constituting power so that the working class and the people, through a popular process, call for a national assembly to reconstitute the government with the people and the working class.
Later at the presidential palace, Maduro signed an executive order for a national assembly and said the vote to form the body would be direct and secret. Opponents quickly raised the alarm, labeling Maduro's move a coup. National Assembly President and opposition leader Julio Borges called on the armed forces to intervene to protect democracy in Venezuela. He also said Maduro's move is in reality an attempt to solidify his power and get rid of the current National Assembly, which has been in the hands of the opposition for more than a year.
What has happened today, and I say without exaggerating or trying to be dramatic, is the greatest coup in the history of Venezuela. It's Nicolas Maduro dissolving democracy and dissolving our republic. Faced with this, the Democratic Unity Party and the members of the National Assembly call on the Venezuelan people to rebel and refuse to accept this coup.
The opposition has been marching against Maduro and the socialist government almost daily since early April. Demonstrators have clashed many times with security forces. According to the Venezuelan Attorney General's office, 29 people have died so far in the violent protests.
Over to Dominica now. Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit says the commissioning of the new West Bridge in Roseau is the first phase in modernizing the nation's capital that will be the envy of the Caribbean and a source of pride for Dominicans. He said funds for the project will come from Dominica's Citizenship by Investment program. He said contracts will soon be signed for the start of works on 3 roads leading into and out of Roseau. Mr. Skerrit also said the government will announce in this year's budget a regime of incentives geared at encouraging property owners in Roseau to upgrade and enhance their residences and places of business. Jamaica's Education Minister Ruel Reid says the government will be continuing its controversial funding arrangements for high schools for the upcoming school year. Minister Reid says based on last year's successful trial, the arrangements will continue with $7.2 billion for the start of the new school year in September. This as the ministry handed over the 4th and final tranche for this year in April of $1.3 billion. Minister Reid's assessment of the JLP funding policy implemented last year in a bid to abolish auxiliary fees in high schools is that it has been very successful.
Many persons thought that we were going to bankrupt the system. The system would have been ruined and going to be in chaos. Schools were going to be running out of money and the worst was going to happen. I'm happy to report that we have been able to successfully implement this policy, and I'm therefore happy to report that the 4th and final tranche that we have promised also have been delivered on time. All schools, all secondary schools would have now received their 4th tranche amounting to $1.321 billion.
The Viewfort Concerned Citizens Coalition for Change and the Concerned Citizens of St. Lucia staged another anti-Desert Star Holdings demonstration in Viewfort over the weekend. Scores of placard-bearing protesters converged on Independence Square in Viewfort Town on Sunday before leading a 1.7-kilometer procession to Sandy Beach and back. Residents from Viewfort and other southern communities took part in the national protest march. The demonstration also registered participants from northern districts, including Castries and Gros-Islet. The underlying theme of the protest march was "We Want a Better Deal." It's a message directed at St. Lucia's Prime Minister Alan Chasney. March coordinator Julius James says they have concerns.